Hey, it's Tyler, host of the Tyler Knows Everything podcast, where the nose is crossed out because I always want to learn more. As usual, I'll go ahead and get all of the advertisements out of the way right now so there's no interruption during the content of this show. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by my patrons on Patreon. This month's patrons include Ty Kudrain, Roxanne and Eric Helberg, Judge Mitch Templeton, Mark McKee, Joe Gilbreth, Paul Prosperi, Zach Hawthorne, and Wade Adair. You too can sponsor this creative effort for as little as $5. Just go to patreon.com/Tyler Knows Everything. That's www.patreon.com/Tyler Knows Everything. For compliance, I'd like to mention that Judge Mitch Templeton sponsors this podcast as a political ad paid for by the Mitch Templeton for Judge campaign. And legal disclaimer, all content is intellectual property of Tyler Troutman and is not to be reused for 1,000 years. My guest today has burned more calories in 1 year than most people will in their entire lifetime. He has completed marathons, Ironman Triathlons, XTERRA Triathlons, ran alongside Lance Armstrong, climbed some of the tallest mountains in the world, is a successful entrepreneur in addition to flying cancer patients in his plane for free to their doctor's appointments and volunteering with the Special Olympics. Please welcome Charlie Dixon.
Tyler
knows
everything.
Anytime I'm able to sit down with somebody who's, super interesting and done lots of amazing things in their life, I want to try to go back, to their early origin story.
Is there someone here like that?
Yeah.
Golly, I want to meet him.
Right across the table. So, if you could just take us back as far as you can, that would be relevant to where you got to where you are today.
Oh, golly. The mean streets of North Dakota.
So not originally born in Southeast Texas?
No. Born in New Orleans. Went to Robert E. Lee in first grade, and then my dad went to prison, Angola State Pen, so we went back to the farm in North Dakota.
Wow.
30, 40 below winters. I had a paper route at 12, and delivering papers, walking, throwing it in 30 below. I mean, it was nuts for a kid.
So that was your first cycling training?
It was. Actually, I've raced BMX.
Yeah. Did you race before you were 12 or after?
Yeah, I started racing about when I was 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's on dirt tracks, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Back then it was so different. Everyone rode their bikes to school.
True.
I mean, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a ride, you were a nerd or whatever. Bike racks were full. It's and it didn't matter if it was 0, with 20 below windshield. I mean, we put our snowmobile suits on, our goggles, and our moon boots, and we rode our bikes to school.
Mm-hmm.
It was bizarre. It's just bizarre now how.
Yeah.
Of course, it was a small town, and you didn't have the crime rate and all that, but
it's hard to find a bike rack at a school now.
I know. It's just it's mind blowing,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it's part of the problem with the kids being overweight these days.
Right.
I don't know. It was either that or being on welfare and getting all of our food. The WIC food. That WIC cheese doesn't taste very good. But no, so my mom, she did this thing. She was single and going to school with my sister while my sister and I were growing up. And she had the basement of her house, she would have a shelter for women that had been abused and were trying to get away from their husbands or whatever. So we'd always have for a few weeks at a time some lady living in the basement.
Oh, right.
So any of the volunteer work and stuff I attribute that all from my mom.
Yeah.
And my mom still does that to this day. I mean, she's just always volunteering, So yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
And so how long did it take to bring you guys to Texas?
She finally graduated with a nursing degree. I was living in Houston where my dad was.
Mm-hmm.
I originally moved to go to work for a screen printing shop when I was 17. Worked for him. Wanted to get out of the cold.
Uh-huh.
And then my mom was here, and I was like, my sister was here. My sister came down here and did her senior year at Central High School. So I was like, let me go get close to the family. So I moved to Beaumont. I think I was 21.
Mm-hmm.
Been here ever since.
Oh, wow. And so back then, screen printing was the only way to make custom T-shirts, right? Screen and airbrushing, maybe.
And screen printing, that was a thing.
That
And
was
I actually opened up my own. That was my first business.
Yeah.
When I moved here, I did a little screen printing thing.
Right. And so you started your first business in your early 20s, and then you kind of became obsessed with entrepreneurialism. Would you say?
I did that when I was 21. Went to work for the radio station. They were actually, I was doing T-shirts for K106.
Okay.
And I got to know one of the guys. He offered me a job when I was in there, and I think I was 22. So I was like, man, here's something I don't have. It's a little more stable, a paycheck, instead of being in the garage trying to find a sale of some shirts. So that was my first job. And then a year later, as I was doing commercials for other businesses, it was a great experience because I'm, dealing with nightclubs and tattoo places and anywhere where a young guy can get in and make a sale, which you're pretty limited.
Yeah.
But I learned the tanning salons. They were just starting in the area, and the guys that I was dealing with is like, man, there's easily, this could be done better.
Yeah. So did Southeast Texas have some back then? And
there was one in the back of a grocery store off of Concord.
Was that early 90s or late 80s?
That was 92.
92, okay.
Yeah. Hey, go past the peas and the carrots. It was called Buddy's.
Wow.
And the old school tanners probably remember that place. And then there was Christopher's Ultra Tan, which is where the Phelan store is now.
Oh, your original store. Okay.
Yeah. So, there was a couple of them.
Yeah. And what sets you apart? Because I've noticed all throughout the years, we've never had a giant corporate tan or franchises come in and take over. It's always pretty much been Bronze Body dominating.
Well, I could tell you an interesting story. We almost did, because I was going to sell to Dark Tan in 2001. And the owners of Dark Tan came over. I had 11 stores at the time. That's when tanning was big. Yeah. That's when I was at I had 100 employees. Wow. It was really unmanageable, Gosh, I don't know how old I was. I was, 29 or something. And, they looked at all the stores. I showed them all the numbers. We had a non-disclosure. And, he had like 100 stores in Houston at the time. And he just said, Charlie, this isn't worth my time, So we're too small a market for the big fish to come in here. Yeah,
because we're bigger than a small town, but smaller than Houston.
Right.
And so they're dealing with areas that have major metropolitan millions of people, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas over here, we're 100,000 in Beaumont, maybe around the same in Port Arthur.
Yeah, so that's why we've never, had a Palm Beach tan or a dark tan or anything like that.
But definitely, I think, your brand has the most knowledgeable people, whereas you have fitness gyms that may throw one or two beds in there just as a perk of going to the gym. But you're not going to find anybody there that's knowledgeable about the process or the products.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what sets us apart is a trained staff that's been there for years and years. Every year you're not retraining new people and going through that learning curve. There's really a lot to it, more than, and all the girls that I hire, every one of them says, boy, I didn't realize there was so much to this. But you're dealing, you can injure people if you burn somebody, if so there is a lot to it.
Right.
And the beds have gotten really technological.
Tell us about the levels and what that means.
Oh my gosh. Used to be there was 30 minutes for like a little canoe-shaped bed.
Yeah.
It's super simple. They were great for maintenance, nothing to it. Now you've got computer boards with 2,000-pound beds that'll tan you one time and not burn you, and it's 10 minutes. I mean, $30,000, $40,000 tanning beds.
Wow, yeah.
Versus $3,000, $2,000 tanning beds back in the day. So like anything, it's advanced, but it's created a maintenance issue where it's you really have to have a lot of skill to get in there and keep these things running, and they require a lot. But yeah, keeping the girls, I've got a couple of them that have been there 16 years, a handful that have been there 9, 10 years. Most of them have been there 5 years, but all I had to do was look at it as a career type job, have a 401k, have a health and dental plan, paid vacation, and you can keep people if you do that.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm more willing to pay, lose a little profit and put it towards payroll, and it really reduces that me having to retrain an entire staff every year.
Right. That makes sense. And so in your 20s, were you interested in fitness at that time?
I've always been, my two sports were kind of individual sports growing up.
Right.
My grades were so bad that I played football and I got kicked off. I just I couldn't study. I had terrible study habits. But I boxed and I raced BMX, individual sports, and it kept me out of trouble. It really did. So I carried that on to, cycling, triathlon, running, and to this day, I still, I'm not competitive, but I still like to get out there and have fun.
Yeah. And so how did you work your way up from doing just cycling to a full Ironman and everything in between?
Well, I'm really purely a cyclist.
Right.
I did run cross country in high school, but I got injured in a bike race. I got hurt. I've broken this collarbone.
Okay.
I've broken this collarbone. Broke this wrist.
Yeah.
So I wanted. Let's see. I think I was out for several years. I'd gotten injured, and I was like, man, I don't want to get hurt anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making a living at this. This is fun. It's a hobby. I broke my back, so I decided I'm going to give it up.
Yeah. Was that from all the crazy jumps?
And
crashes?
No, I mean, when you're traveling 35 miles an hour in a group and the guy in front of you falls down, I mean, and you're wearing spandex,
Yeah.
So I had quit for about five or 6 years, and then I really missed it, and I could see that I needed to do something, because I started getting out of shape and putting some weight on. So I decided to come back doing triathlons because it's safe.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not in a big pack of people that are crashing everywhere. It's kind of like you go out and you do your own thing. You ride a bike, no one's around you. You run.
The distances are so long that you're pretty spread out.
Well, you have to be. It's part of the rules. You can't draft.
Right. Okay.
So you're not. You don't have to worry about somebody in front of you or beside you or crashing you. So. It's just like if you go run a 5K, you're not going to get injured.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing with triathlon. So that's how I got back into the sport, into working out. And then after a few years, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to dip back into bike racing again. But I really fell in love with triathlon, so I kept doing that as well as the cycling. So I just kind of did a mix of it.
Was the swimming part hard to get good at?
I swam when I was young,
Okay.
but I wouldn't say I never got good at it. I mean, I can swim, but it's my weak part for sure. I mean, so what I do is I manage to limit my losses in the swim. Usually in the bike, I can gain, and then the run, I lose again. I see the guys coming by me, but I can swim, but I'm not anybody that swam collegially. I don't have a chance against.
Oh yeah, and it's probably significantly tougher open water, I would imagine.
It's not harder, but it's scarier.
Scarier, okay.
Yeah, it's you got the waves and you can take water on if you get splashed in the face and then somebody swims over the top of you and you start panicking.
Yeah.
So it's the fear factor more than anything.
Mm-hmm. And then did you do half marathons and marathons by themselves individually to train?
I did.
Okay.
I did, and that's kind of a whole nother. That's more of a social aspect.
Yeah.
Because you can run with friends, you can talk, socialize. If you're doing a triathlon, you don't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
If you're bike racing, you yell at people, get away, whatever, but you're not talking to anybody. So, yeah, I've done a lot of marathons and stuff purely for fun.
Okay.
If you want to call that
Yeah.
fun.
And then remind me again the distances of an Ironman.
An Ironman is a marathon at the end. It's a 26-mile run.
After you do all the other.
It's always the swim first. The swim's 2.5 miles, and then the bike is 112 miles. So it's 6 hours, 7 hours on a bike, and then you do a marathon at the end.
Yeah, and so talk about the times of somebody who's fairly, maybe average competitive. How long does each of those take, and then how long does it take in total?
The swim will take an hour to an hour and a half typically. The bike will take 5 to 7 hours, and then the run. Most people, not most, but if you've done a marathon, it can be a 3.5 to 6 hour event.
Yeah, good time is like 4 hours for most people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, you're running on, you might even be cramping off the bike at that
Sure.
time. And so you got a lot of walking, running. Overall, 14 to 18 hours. I think they have a cutoff of when it gets to be midnight.
Yeah.
Typically, they cut you off, which puts you usually a 20-hour time limit, I believe.
Okay.
So, most people, if it's their first one, they're 17, 18 hours. Wow. It's a long day.
It's a long time to be moving.
Yeah.
And then how do you get your nutrition throughout that day?
Oh, you just carry it, and then they'll give you bags with, you can stash things at certain areas.
Like goo packets and Cliff Bars?
Boy, you better eat more than that. You bet sandwiches.
Real food. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have, some people can do it. I have stomach problems if I do nothing but goos and carb mixes,
Oh, right, yeah. So I guess it's best to do what you would normally do, is eat what you would normally eat.
Fairly light, you want to do like, barbecue beef, Yeah.
And where were your, did you do more than one full Ironman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where all were they? Where were the locations?
Oh, gosh. I've done one in Florida. I did one in
was that the ocean swimming for the swim?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is great because it's salt water. It's very buoyant.
Yeah, okay. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Did one in where Muhammad Ali was born. Oh, it was that great museum he's at. Kentucky, Louisville.
Okay.
Louisville.
Yeah.
And then I did one in Houston. I was actually doing one with a friend of mine, Min Dai from Tokyo. It was Min's first one.
Oh, okay.
And I was coaching him, and I did it with him.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun because I kind of got to socialize while I was doing it. I believe those are the only 3 fulls I've done. I've done a bunch of halves, which are a lot easier.
Yeah. And what are the distances on the half?
It's half,
exactly half of what. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And you're talking about, a 7-hour day versus a 14 or 15-hour day.
Okay, there you
Big
go.
difference.
Did you get the Ironman tattoo after you completed?
No, I have no tattoos.
Oh, okay.
And I just,
I don't either.
I'm just not a tattoo guy. Nothing against them, but
Yeah.
it's just not for me.
Right.
Yeah. I'm scared of needles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to get a tattoo if you're scared of needles.
Man, I pass out if I give blood. I've got this weird phobia. Some people are scared of heights. That's my thing.
Yeah. And then did you also do some of the bike races individually? Like, isn't there one called Hotter Than Hell or Hot 100? Or...
Yeah. I've done that.
Where is that one at?
Gosh, that's in Dallas.
And
or Wichita Falls.
And it's usually August, right?
August. Late August. Yeah, bike races, I've done, probably the most challenging one is Leadville, Colorado, because it's at 12,000
elevation,
11,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And you're coming from sea level. You have to ride 100 miles in the mountains on a mountain bike. That's tough.
So speaking of elevation, you've summited some mountains.
Yeah, that's kind of another hobby. I like to get away in the summers because I'm a cold weather person. I come from up north, and the heat just kills me.
Yeah.
So when I can, I go to Colorado, or I've gone to the Cascades several times, and I'll sign up with a climbing group, and we'll do some mountaineering where you're roped up and you got the crampons on and the ice axes and all that. Wow. I've done Rainier, and then I got some skills built up where I had all my own gear, so I signed up for a trip in South America to Aconcagua, and it was a 3-week expedition, and that went really well. So I was like, well, I'm going to keep pushing it and push my limits a little bit. So I did McKinley, or AKA Denali.
That's Alaska?
Yeah. That was neat. Our high tent, at high camp, it was minus 10 inside the tent with 3 of us in a little tent.
Oh, wow.
We had our water bottles in the sleeping bags, and it still froze. No sleep. You're not sleeping at 10 below,
No.
And then I went to Everest. I kind of got the big head, and I was like, I think I can do this, know. And
so that's over in Nepal.
Yeah. Kathmandu is. It was worth the trip just to see Kathmandu. It is such a neat. You feel like you're going back in time 200-300 years. It's amazing.
So did it go wrong?
It did go wrong. It went real wrong. Yeah. I learned that, until you pay your life flight, they keep your passport,
Wow.
So, yeah, I had to get rescued.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So did you hang out at base camp and then try to go up? And what all went wrong? Was it an issue with oxygen or
Yeah. I got pulmonary edema, which is
because
altitude
you're
sickness.
on top of the world, the atmosphere gets thinner, and it's crazy that you're still on land walking, and that can happen because it's so high. And I think if I remember right, there's a certain altitude where a helicopter can't even get to you because the air is so thin that the propellers can't beat it. And don't they call it like once you pass that point, I mean, I guess there's bodies up there.
Yeah, I walked over a body at McKinley. A guy had a heart attack the day before.
Wow.
And I was on a team. We were 4 of us on a rope, and our guide was on the front. And he said, "Hey, I got it." That morning before we left, he got the news on the radio, and he said, "Guys, listen, I got to tell you something. We're going to be walking over somebody because it was a ridge, and the Park Service was going to try to get to him like the next day." So it was really, emotional.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, surprisingly, but I didn't see any bodies on Everest. I didn't get up that high. I got up just high enough where. I did have to go. I spent about 3 hours down climbing to where there was a spot for a helicopter to come to.
Yeah.
And that 3 hours felt like an Ironman. I mean, altitude poisoning feels like just a really bad flu.
Oh, okay.
And you're super weak, and the last thing you want to do, if you're in bed curled up with the flu, is be, climbing down the face of a cliff.
Doing something physical.
Yeah.
Did you have any Sherpas with you?
I did.
Uh-huh.
I did.
And
his name was Tarzan.
Tarzan.
It's his real name.
And so those guys, how often are they climbing?
Oh, it's their job.
Is it weekly, I guess?
It's 6 weeks.
It's a season. There's a climbing season.
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah. So it's part-time, but I'm sure, I would think that they could do other area climbs. I mean, they make enough money, to they could probably do one climb, and there's so much poverty there. It's unbelievable.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And I guess it's very expensive to go on a climb.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, you're 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not expensive to go to the Cascades. Of course, you don't have Sherpas or porters or anything like that.
Yeah.
South America is really cheap, but yeah, Everest is very expensive.
Right. And
it's the permits.
Okay.
That's how they make their money.
Yeah. And then is K2 even more dangerous?
K2 you can't even do because it's in Pakistan. So since 9/11, that's been something that's. Now I've talked to some of the people I was over there with. One of them was a guide and had some great stories, and that would take an hour just to tell you the amazing stories about the Taliban and what they were kind of hiding from and all that. But maybe a different day. But K2 is really tough, and it's super deadly, and I would never. I mean,
Is it the terrain or the weather?
It's super steep, so there's a lot of avalanches. I mean, it's like this, so that snow is constantly falling.
Yeah.
A lot of deaths. Matter of fact, I kind of had one close call aside from the life flight. I was signed up to go to Rainier and do the north face of Rainier, which is the steep side. The other side is just kind of rounded off, pretty easy to do. And you have to submit a resume and have some experience. Other than riding in a real scenic helicopter trip through around Everest.
Mm-hmm.
So I made the trip, and they had a A team and a B team, and it was 5 days for the A team, and then the same guides were going to come back and take us the next week. So I'd bought my airfare. I was ready to go, put my deposit down. I was 2 weeks out, and I was training. I was at the gym with my backpack, really excited. And then here we are. There was a week between the two trips. So the first, to make a long story short, the first team went up, and they all died from an avalanche.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, of course, naturally, there was no second trip.
Mm.
But that was, I don't know, it was one of my 9 lives.
Yeah.
I got lucky on that.
Did you have a reason for wanting to climb mountains?
Some people are water people. I'm a mountain person.
Yeah.
Instead of going to the beach or the lake, I'd rather go up to the hills. I love riding my bikes in the hills. And, it's.
And what are some good places domestically for people to get into climbing as a beginner in the United States?
Gosh, it's tough to do that. I mean, Colorado's got all the 14ers, a lot of great hikes.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of ice climbing there in the winter.
Would a 14
with two axes?
Yeah, would a 14er up and down about one day?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it in a day.
Mm-hmm.
There's really not much in Texas. I mean, there's some really great rock climbing at a place called Waco Tanks over in West Texas. It's world class. I'm not much of a rock climber.
Yeah.
I would rather. I'm more of an expedition. I'd rather go way up and I like glaciers. I like the cold and the camping. I like the kind of the whole outdoor experience with the setting up the tents and all that versus just a rock wall.
Did you ever do any of those adventure races?
I haven't.
Okay.
No, I always wanted to, but I never did.
They kind of have, people usually camp out the night before.
Yeah.
There's like usually a mystery event that might be like kayaking or canoeing. I see a lot of triathlon athletes that seem to participate in it because it's got such random activities.
Yeah.
And they seem like fun.
They sure do. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
It really is. It's something that I'm looking forward to doing. Canoeing is usually one of the events on that.
Right, yeah.
The closest thing I've probably done to that is a 24-hour race where we'll get a team of like 4 or 5 guys on our mountain bikes, and they time you for 24 hours, and you'll make a lap. Next guy, you wake him up and he makes a lap, and you just keep going, and whoever does the most laps in 24 hours. But you're there with a tent, and we're cooking, and
that's a fun social event.
Yeah.
Did you get into XTERRA racing?
I did.
And so
I did.
How would you describe XTERRA versus a triathlon?
It's just an off-road triathlon.
Yeah, so instead of cycling on the road with a road bike, you've got a mountain bike on the trails.
Right.
And then instead of running on the road or the pavement, you're running on trail running.
Right.
Yeah, so it's harder, would you say, or different? More so different.
I like it because it's more outdoorsy. You're off the streets and out of the cities, and you're out there in the woods, and that's why I love it. Also, it favors the cyclist a lot more. A regular triathlon is really a running man's race. If you're a runner, you got a huge advantage. Whereas an off-road race is, you've got to be a mountain biker with some skills in order to do well. So it kind of shifted where that was something I was able to do better at. I've never been much of a triathlete because I'm just too big to run fast.
Yeah.
I
guess XTERRA is more technical when it comes to the bike.
Right. And there's a little more strength involved in trail running instead of just pure speed. So, XTERRA is kind of my niche. That's what I
What were
do
the
well
distances like for XTERRA?
They call it Olympic distance,
okay.
which is it's a 1 mile swim, a 40K bike, and a 10K run. It takes about 2.5 hours, maybe 3, depending on the terrain.
Yeah, that does sound interesting.
Yeah.
Did you have any life hacks over the years or nutrition hacks, that kind of helped you, get the edge over your competition?
Yeah, I had done it every weekend for several years, and I was doing pretty good at a state level, but I never really could crack into that. I'd go to the nationals and I'd just get hammered. The guys from Colorado would come down and just eat my lunch, or Utah. Those guys were always killing it, and then in 2013. I switched to a vegan diet, and I lost about an extra 10 pounds that normally I'd never been able to shred.
Yeah.
And it made a huge difference on the run.
Yeah.
I mean, I went from running like a 1935K down to a 1830.
Oh,
I mean, that's
fast. Yeah.
That made all the difference in the world, especially for, I was 45 that year.
Yeah.
And I just entered the 45 to 49 age group, so I was the young guy in the age group. And they announced that the national championships weren't going to be in Leadville or Park City. They were going to be in Dallas in August. So I'm like, all right, no altitude, no mountains. Maybe I have a shot here. So I was really focused on it, and almost looked at it like a job for several months. And sure enough, I won the championships that year.
Wow. And so have you been vegan since then, or
nope.
just so it was more
after the race went back?
Yeah, so more like training specific.
Yeah, it's a tough diet to stick to.
Yeah.
It's no fun, but it worked.
I've tried doing the opposite of that. I did carnivore for a month where I only ate meat or eggs for an entire month. And I actually got leaner from that as well. But, I did miss having more carbs in the diet. I didn't seem to have the explosive strength, like for CrossFit, for example.
Yeah.
I could lift weights, but I'd lacked some of that fast twitch, explosive strength for Olympic lifting.
Because of the reduced carbs, huh?
Yeah, low on glycogen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it did get me leaner. And,
yeah.
It was easy to do. You didn't have to do a lot of planning for your meals. Just
yeah, right. It sounds kind of tasty too.
Yeah, and I did blood labs afterwards to make sure everything was okay, and it was legit.
Okay.
So,
you don't need any strength really for the endurance sports like the triathlon though.
Okay.
So I might have to try that.
Yeah. Did somebody told me about something called Angel Air?
Angel Flight.
Or Angel Flight. And,
yeah.
Can you? That's all I know is the name.
Okay, so I got my pilot's license when I was maybe 33 or 34. It's something that I've always had a passion for was flying, and I had a little plane, little 4-seater. Well, once you get 200 hours accumulated, you could apply to be an Angel Flight patient, and so that was always a goal of mine. Well, when I achieved the 200 hours, I was able to start doing missions from anywhere from like New Orleans to Shreveport to Dallas to San Antonio. That's my area, and I would pick up a cancer patient and fly them to Houston, where they would do a week of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
What typically it's difficult for them to drive. 5-6 hours in a car.
Right.
And they'll have usually a spouse or child or somebody with them. So I'd have two passengers with me, and I just fly them there, and they get picked up at Houston Hobby. There's a Angel Flight hangar there. And it was really great. I flew 29 missions.
Wow. And so is that organization like a charitable organization?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You just fly in. They pay nothing.
Right. You're volunteering your time.
Yeah. It's just like, hey, you want to ride? And they hop in, and I fly them over there, and it's just
I know
the gas.
From some of my friends that are pilots, like for Cessna planes and things, they want to fly. They like you said, you did it because it's a hobby or a passion of yours, and sometimes they're always looking for somebody. Hey, you want to go flying? We're not going anywhere. We're just flying around. So I guess for you, it was good to get up in the air.
Well, and they were they're so grateful, and the stories are great, and I had my favorite story is I had this really elderly woman. I don't know how old she was, but she was very, very old. And she was in the back, and in the summertime, heat rises, and that's what causes turbulence. And there's no air conditioning in these little planes. You just get up as high as you can, as quick as you can, so it gets cooler.
Yeah, I think a couple days ago, it was 100 degrees on the ground. My friend went up. He said it was about 4,500 feet. It was 55.
Well, typically it's 2.5 degrees colder for every 1,000 feet you go up. So, I would try to get up to 10,000, 15,000 feet as quick as I could. But I'm on my way up with this lady, and, man, we are just, you're strapped in, and we are bouncing around. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm so sorry. It'll get smoother once we get higher. Yeah. And she's like, oh, this is nothing. I flew planes in World War II.
Oh, wow.
She was a WASP pilot. Flying cargo planes.
Goodness.
So what? So of course I it was just nothing but questions the whole time, and it was great stories. It was fantastic.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I took off with a buddy in a crosswind in this is a 4-seater plane, and we're sliding around. And I thought it was going to be like this the whole time. It's like no, just wait till we get up there. But they land so quick as opposed to like a commercial jet. A commercial jet takes so long to land, and those things are just like zoop.
Yeah, big airliners landing at 180 miles an hour, and in a little plane you're landing at 40.
Yeah.
So you're almost like I can get out and kind of just run next to you and land.
Yeah, you could. I was amazed at how different that was.
Yeah.
For sure. And how light the plane was because, you pull it out of your hangar just with your muscles.
Yeah. Yeah, they're super light.
Yeah. And there was something about the Special Olympics. Did you also help out with?
I did. I was a cycling coach for Special Olympics.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Southeast Texas doesn't have enough sponsorship to have their own Special Olympics. in many things. In cycling was kind of, since it's my passion, I felt that I could really help in that area. I am a coach for triathlon and cycling, not for Special Olympics though. So I got certified to do that, and I would drive over to Baytown 3 times a week, and there was a group of kids there that we worked with. And it was a lot of fun. I only did it for 1 year, unfortunately. The drive was kind of prohibitive, but I committed for 1 season. I was going to do it. And I actually got to race with a kid that I kind of helped him at the state championships, and he got 3rd place. It was a lot of fun.
Were they using standard bikes?
Yeah, yeah.
Some of them use hand bikes, or did they have?
No, you're probably, that would be like Paralympics.
Okay, yeah.
That's handicap. This is Special Olympics. This would be mental disabilities.
Okay, yeah. So they're riding a standard
right.
bike, yeah. And have you noticed the technology of the bikes change much from when you first started racing till now? With the carbon fiber.
Yeah, but it's still a bike. I mean, it's
still 2 wheels and pedals.
Yeah, there's not enough. I'm waiting for the motor.
Yeah.
Which they actually have the electronic bikes now, which are super cool to ride.
Yeah, I rode. I forgot what the name was, but it's a pedal assisted.
Yeah.
So you can get up to 25 miles an hour just with no effort at all.
Those things, I kind of see that as maybe getting so big where it's transportation for people.
It could be, yeah, because you think, riding to the grocery store and back, you could, and also our infrastructure here, we have some sidewalks that go to nowhere. We have bike lanes that end abruptly.
Right.
But with those pedal assisted bikes, you can get up to a fast enough speed to kind of mitigate those gaps to get if you have to go on the street for a little bit. And
you don't have to be in shape.
No,
you can go as far, if you wanted to ride to school to Lamar every day and back in your other side of town, you could, no matter how out of shape you are.
Right, yeah, because just by yourself, the average person may have, 12 miles an hour or something, but this one, the one I did, I was up to 25 in no time.
Yeah.
25 is pretty fast on a bike.
They kind of remind me of the old mopeds.
Yeah.
Those where you'd pedal a little bit.
Get it going.
Yeah. But bikes overall, sure, they've advanced a lot, but, not really. I started riding on like a 1979 Univega, and, of course, I've got, a really nice new bike now, and it's the same feeling.
Yeah. Can you ride any of the obscure bikes like unicycles and the ones with the big wheel in the front and the tiny wheel?
I do have a penny farthing.
And so is that what you call the
big wheel bike, the old-fashioned bikes, the antiques? I bought it from Buck at Handlebar.
How do you get on it?
So it's kind of like a skateboard. You put one foot on a peg and you have your hands way up here and you kick a few times, and then you have to just kind of take a leap of faith and step up and have a little momentum and keep pedaling.
Oh, okay.
They're really hard to ride up hills, and then they're fairly dangerous. The term, I took a header, maybe you came down on your head.
Yeah.
That originated from penny farthings in like from 1900 to 1910. I think they had like 40 deaths, head injuries from people going over the front of their penny farthings without helmets, of course, back then. So they're real top heavy, so you can go over the top easy.
Did they originate as a novelty, or did they think it was actually practical?
No, that was the thing. And this is before cars.
Yeah.
I think the Model T came out in 09, 2000.
Right. Early 1900s.
Yeah. So that was how everybody got around.
Right. Yeah. Horse and buggy or bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about unicycle? Can you do that?
Oh, no.
No, can't do unicycle.
No, I've tried a couple times. Just can't.
Yeah.
I'm not any good on a skateboard. I had a quarter pipe on my bike, but I was never able to do the skateboard.
Yeah. Were you a big follower of the Tour de France, or still a big follower?
Yeah. I've actually gone over twice
to be a spectator,
and rode my bike through the whole thing. Kind of did like a bike camping where I followed it on my bike every day.
That's really cool.
Did the Giro d'Italia 1 year, which is 3 weeks. It's like Italy's Tour de France, and went all through. Staying in little obscure hotels, and it was a big adventure.
So are there any places internationally that you haven't traveled that you're really wanting to go? You've been so many places already.
Never been to Africa.
Oh, okay.
Never been to the Middle East.
Yeah.
Been about everywhere else. So.
Yeah, Middle East for me, I'd want to check out Dubai. It
seems neat.
And maybe Singapore. They both seem like really futuristic cities.
You're right. I was gonna do Egypt. And I was really looking into a trip, and then they had their revolution. This was, I don't know, 10 years ago or something.
So, yeah.
And it was like, just cancel that trip, you know.
I had to cancel Sedona, Arizona back in April. That was kind of when COVID hit, and we didn't really know much about it at the time, so I just felt like it'd be safe. But I had an Airbnb in Sedona and one in Phoenix, and the owners, they said you can still come if you want to, but I didn't really know what, that's back before we knew anything about, can kids catch it, or am I going to die?
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I just canceled it, and
probably smart.
yeah, I'll have to go back again, though, because I was able to get all the credits for everything to go back anytime. And have you ever been to Utah? I've been looking at Utah as well.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to see mountains and the Salt Lake Flats all on the same kind of trip. And,
yeah.
But I
Utah's
think
fantastic.
I was going to fly into Salt Lake City, but I think Arches is further away. Arches National Park.
Well, it's closer.
Yeah.
Actually, it's kind of like if you're driving, you're going to get to Arches before you get to Park City.
Yeah. But I think if you fly into Salt Lake City, then you have to backtrack to go to Arches.
Yeah, Arches is really neat. I've been there, and then I have my cousin owns a emergency vet clinic in Park City. Mm-hmm. So a couple times I've gone and stayed with him, and he's a cyclist too.
Yeah.
So I'd go over there and we'd ride together, and he'd take me up on all the trails in the mountains. I did the they had the Winter Olympics there.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a while back, but
yeah.
They have the bobsledding deal that you can pay $50 and take the bobsled down the course. There's no ice, it's on wheels now instead of.
Okay.
But that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you do any other snow sports like skiing or snowboarding or?
I'm a pretty decent cross country skier because
Okay.
that was one of our school sports growing up.
Oh, right, in North Dakota. Okay.
Yeah. We'd go out for an hour, in our snowmobile suits, and then go back to class.
Mm.
But I'm pretty crappy at downhill skiing and yeah, I'm not very good at any of the rest of it.
Yeah, I did get to take my mountain bike to Garden of the Gods in Colorado.
Oh yeah.
It was interesting going to the city of Boulder. They have a sugar tax. So
really?
Any item that has sugar, like soft drink or candy, it's got an additional. There's the sales tax, and there's like a 2% or 2.5%, and it's on the receipt called sugar tax.
Really?
I noticed it because I went to a gas station and got an energy drink, and I saw that sugar tax. And I was like, "What is that?" And they were like, "Welcome to Boulder."
I got to steer clear of Boulder, because
they would get some money
candy
out of you.
Yeah, man, I'm a sugar fanatic.
But what I noticed was the average age in Boulder was very young, and almost every truck, Subaru car, had a bike rack, a canoe rack, had camping gear. I mean, It was active outdoor people all over the place.
Oh, for sure.
You didn't see a lot of jacked up trucks for no reason, or people doing boats and side by sides. It was human driven things, kayaks and the like.
Yeah, they're really camping friendly. A lot of outdoors. A good friend of mine goes hunting up there every year. Where they bow hunt, and they'll just go camping. For a week
bow
straight.
hunting is very physically demanding.
Oh yeah.
Especially
you're carrying an elk out.
Yeah, you have to quarter it up and carry it. I've seen guys in the gym that go to the stair climber with a backpack of weights. And they say they're training to get ready for the hunting trip.
Sure, I've done. That you do the same thing for mountaineering.
Yeah.
Backpack
right.
full of weights.
Yeah. So I guess some people, in a tourism standpoint, they do maybe go to Colorado and climb a mountain, but would you advise against that? Would you try to have some sort of training in preparation?
Nah, just go do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, really. I mean, that's because it's really hard to train for it. I mean, if the altitude, you can't train for it, so just go out and have fun.
Right.
That's what I did the first time. I went and did a where I was all roped in with the axes and all that on the mountains. I just went in and it kind of kicked my butt, but I had such a fantastic time. I was like, this is like being on a different planet. So I just would go back every year and do it. It's kind of like snow skiing if you're from here, and you can't really prepare for it. You just go once a year to the mountains and snow ski.
Do you have any really cool summit pictures?
I do have some pretty decent ones. Yeah.
That would be definitely probably life changing to do it from Everest, because you're at the highest point in the world.
There's once I got over there and kind of saw all the other beautiful mountains. The locals call Everest a fat man in a room of beautiful women.
Yeah.
because all the mountains around them are these just real jagged, like Lord of the Rings looking peaks.
Right.
And then you got Everest just kind of,
Oh,
it is taller than the rest of them,
Yeah.
but it's not that aesthetic,
Right.
and it's not very technical to get up it. It's just the challenge of the altitude.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, I've heard that it's not so much like K2, for example. K2 is more technical,
Yeah.
whereas Everest has more health risks. The altitude sickness, the frostbite, the amount of time it takes, the weather. Yeah, the weather. They have to overly obsess about the weather.
Yeah.
And cancel climbs.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes do people pay a lot of money to get over there, and maybe there's a bad week of weather, and it's just like, sorry, because there's nothing you can do.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. There's a climb called Amadou Blanc that I pass on the way there. It's like I couldn't take my eyes off it. I would love to go back and do something like that, and it takes the altitude risk out of it because it's not that high. I mean, not as high as where you could die, but it's a beautiful jagged peak with some really challenging tool climbing on it.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them, but I'll never go back and try to do Everest again.
Oh yeah.
And it's not so much of the fear of having to do another scenic helicopter tour. It's just because I've seen that there's so much other stuff over there now that I didn't know about that is so much cooler.
Did you ever do East Coast like Gatlinburg, Smoky Mountains?
I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I've ridden over there, done some bike races, but no, I haven't done those.
That's probably more like scenic. It's not too challenging, I would imagine.
I heard there's some really good rock climbing there, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like Red Rocks in Vegas.
Yeah.
That's something that everyone goes to Vegas. It's a really easy trip, and it's like 30 minutes from the Strip. There's world-class rock climbing right there.
Yeah. When you're on the Vegas Strip, looking around, it's surrounded by mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
So that would be a good intro for anybody that wants to try some rock climbing. Is next time you do the Vegas trip, just get up a little early, head out there, and go to Red Rocks.
Yeah, I've done some 5Ks at Lake Mead.
Okay, yeah.
And then there's a triathlon going on at the same time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so that's Vegas is a really cool town because I like the drier, hot climates.
Okay.
Versus
I like the drier part of it. It's just not the heat.
The snow.
The humid hot.
Yeah, I've never been to Alaska or been to Canada. The furthest north I've ever been would be New York City, and I've been to New York between Christmas and New Year's, and it was the most cold I've ever experienced in my life. Like, it hurt my bones. And I think because in Texas, we don't really own the proper type of clothing to take up there.
Yeah.
So I kind of just took like layers of light jackets, and I thought, I got 4 layers, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But no, I should have had Patagonia down jackets and Columbia and fur.
Yeah, and they have a humid cold there too. It's not the dry cold that if you were more inland, And I've been to New York in that week you're talking about, and man, it is so crowded.
Yeah, it is.
You're
it's more
an
people.
hour to get into any kind of museum or whatever.
Yeah, New York and London is the most people that I've ever seen in one spot in my life.
Yeah,
there's just people everywhere. And New York, people are on top of each other. London, they're just in massive, mostly tourism, I would imagine, but very diverse in both cities.
Yeah,
there's every nationality that you can think of in both London and New York.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But I spent a lot of time in Europe when I was actually building tanning beds in Italy for a while. So we would go do trade shows tanning's real big in Europe.
Yeah.
And I jumped over to London for a trade show, and it was like, wow, everyone speaks English over here. This is so easy.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm in a foreign country, it was just like refreshing.
Right. Yeah.
It's very much like America versus when you're down in Italy, it's like you're in a different country. It's really strange.
And a lot of bike riding in London too for transportation for getting around.
All over
because they can weave in and out of the cars. And motorcycles too. It's like encouraged. Here, I think you get a ticket for that.
I tell you what is. Amsterdam and Holland is you talk about a lot of bikes. Oh my God, it's like the mall with all the cars everywhere. They'll have a mall with bikes,
parking lots of bikes.
Thousands of bikes. Yeah. We were coming home from a club, 3 a.m. and everybody that all the bartenders, all the wait staff, and everyone's cycling home, and they stop at red lights. They got lights with like a bike logo on there.
Oh yeah,
it's incredible. you got to see it.
Yeah. When you go to those places like that, or in your younger days when you were in Europe, did you stay at the nice places, or did you go from more of the hostel backpacking?
Oh, I do the cheapest, hostel-ish, the worst place I could stay.
Where there's like lots of people staying together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, $8, $5 a night.
Oh wow, yeah. So that's really cheap. You can make a longer stay of it because you're not spending all your money.
Yeah, and I'm not going with the family and kids and all that. You wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to stay at a hostel if you had your wife with you. But yeah, there'd be like 6 bunk beds in a room, and you don't know any of these people. You're stumbling in, and hope they're not. I was actually on a train with there was a Japanese girl, a Chinese guy, and a Korean guy, and none of them could communicate with each other.
Oh wow!
And then here I am at the bottom bunk on a overnight train, and it was just it was crazy how none of us, we were all trying to communicate.
Yeah.
None of us knew each other's language. It was really cool. We kind of all had a good time with it.
Because I would never think about that. You're sleeping 3 feet away from all these different people, and you can't even say hello.
I know.
To where they would understand. I mean,
you just kind of wave.
Yeah,
and
you
hey.
can wave, you can smile, you can point to what you're talking about. But yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, the trains are real big in Europe. That's how everybody gets around. And I was doing a Habitat for Humanity build in Bucharest, Romania, and I started in Switzerland, where the trains are, perfect. Switzerland's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I went down, Czechoslovakia, Bosnia. I was all the way down. I went to Bulgaria, to Sofia, Bulgaria, and from there, I kind of got lost and had to make my way up to Romania. But the trains went from nice. It progressed to scary, and then not even the conductor or the information stand spoke English. Wow. So you're trying to figure out, okay, where's my connection? How do I get to the next one? And even the information booth is like, English? No English here,
Yeah, and this is way before smartphones.
Oh,
maybe?
yeah, this is a while back. This is back in, probably 2001 or 2000, something like that.
Yeah. And
it got a little scary. I had to spend the night at a train station, and then they closed, and I'm outside. I had a little kid walk me to a bus station, through Sofia, Bulgaria is like 3 million, it's third world. Mm. And luckily I found the bus station, took a bus to where they stopped. The driver grabbed me, pulled me out, and stuck me on a van with some family. And they're looking like, we don't want this guy with us. And we drove across the Romanian border. Turns out they were smuggling cigarettes across the border. And right when we get to the border, they're all unzipping their duffel bags and, stuffing them up their shirts. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm going to spend the rest of my life in a Romanian prison. Yeah. And, I saw the border guards and them, doing some money exchange. It was nerve-wracking. But we made it. Right. And I made it over, it was a day late, but I made it to the build. It was crazy.
Yeah. So you're a world-class cigarette connoisseur.
Yeah. Don't smoke, but boy, the look on their face when he threw me on their van, it was just like, oh boy, what is this?
Yeah, I would be terrified because it's before Google. You don't know where you are to pull it up. It's 2001. You probably had a flip phone, if that,
right.
If it even worked over there. And just recently I saw that you can get an earpiece with Google Translate, and someone can talk to your phone and it translates in your ear in almost real time.
Okay.
And so traveling has gotten overwhelmingly easier for millennials, right?
Wow, that would be neat.
Yeah, because they can't handle what you handled, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I got pickpocketed while I was in Romania by a gypsy, and they got my passport and everything.
What do you do when someone steals your passport and you're overseas?
So, luckily, I had made a copy of my passport, and I had it. My secretary at the time here at Bronze Body, her name was Taryn Martin, and she's a great girl. Anyway,
do you have to find an embassy somewhere?
Well, I called her, and she said, "Okay, I'm going to send you some money and a copy of your passport." It was like the overnight how they. I don't even know what it's called, where it's they can telegraph it or whatever. Yeah. So I had to sleep in there because it's opposite time. So I had to wait for them to open, and then when they opened it, whatever it was, 8 a.m. I'm kind of waking up, rubbing my eyes, getting up, like, okay, I should have something here, sure enough, there was my money and a copy of that. So yeah, I used that to get home.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Do you think some of those experiences, along with the suffering of endurance sports and the high altitude, the cold, like has that made you? What has that done for your mental toughness and along with your physical toughness, just for everyday life? You know, do you ever apply that to other areas of your life, like business? Do you think about going through the last mile of a marathon?
No, I usually, if I'm really suffering at the end of some kind of endurance race or something, I just think I'm being chased by zombies.
Oh yeah,
And that's what gets me through every time. Yeah.
Well, before we wrap this up, do you have one more cool story that people may not know that you want to share?
Oh God,
I
cool
know
stories.
So many, but
Oh boy, I don't know.
it could be a mishap, it could be an adventure, it could be a success.
Gosh, that's a tough one. Putting me on the spot like that. I don't know. I think that traveling with a backpack in Europe and not really having a plan and going everywhere, like I would really recommend it versus just, most of my friends just like to go to the beach and drink margaritas.
Yeah.
Just
sit in the same spot.
Right.
Yeah.
If I relax, I want to sit on my living room couch and watch the TV.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to go somewhere, I want to do something kind of neat and different that I can't do here.
Right.
So, like for example, I had a Euro pass, and it's like, well, where can I go now? I got a couple of days left before I got to get back over to this trade show.
And
so
what does the Euro pass let you do?
You can go anywhere on the train. With this
okay.
ticket, you just hand it. You walk in, and wherever it ends up, you can go. And
so
there's
you buy it one time,
right?
And you can go to all the countries in Europe.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, I ended up going to Poland,
mm-hmm.
and it was Europe's real close together, but Poland was a long way, long haul. And then I got on a bus, and I went to Auschwitz.
Ah.
And it was probably one of the most memorable experiences of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, they have, it's like you go back in time. They've really maintained it, and I walked all around. There was nobody really there. I'm walking around and I can't see anybody. I'm by myself, and very powerful.
Because that's where a lot of the Holocaust took place.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Auschwitz concentration camp,
Yeah.
And, those aren't things you think of when, where am I going to go this summer on vacation? Come on, kids, let's go to Auschwitz,
Right.
But I love history, and it really makes you kind of relive history a little bit, and that was a fantastic experience.
Did you ever get to see the running of the bulls?
No, I haven't done the Pamplona thing, and I think I'd be a little spooked on that. I'm not. Getting pierced by a bill. I have been to Spain. Yeah, I did. I did a big the World Championship XTERRA race was in Spain one year, and I was lucky enough to make the 45 to 49-year-old guys team, and we went and did that. But it was more of a touristy trip. We didn't do anything too crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think Spain's crazy enough, right?
Very very clean. I was really impressed with Spain. It's really nice.
Don't the locals like to party in Spain?
I went with some expectations of a race. We didn't go out, and we were in bed by 9 and all that.
Yeah.
So I just know it's not a third world country. I mean, it's modern and very nice and clean, and it was pretty.
Yeah. Well, any future plans that you have coming up?
I want to get up to Colorado this summer at some point, maybe. But the whole
travel.
It's been a really awkward year.
It's almost halfway over too.
I know. So nothing really solid right now. Mm-hmm. Just trying to get through this whole thing with work and COVID and everything.
Right. Yeah. Any future fitness goals that you have?
My fitness goal would just be to. I would like to race again, not really competitively, but get to a point where I could kind of, at least get out there and socialize a little bit. And no ambition, but just for fitness overall.
Right. Kind of transferring into more of a maintenance mode.
That's right.
Yeah, because as you get older, you don't want to hurt. You just want to maintain what you have a little more.
Yeah, I miss it. I miss the whole, getting there with. I have a lot of friends that I made through, racing, and it was fun.
Mm-hmm. Do you still get into the coaching much?
I haven't been doing much of that. No,
mentoring
I really haven't. I kind of, I mean, I will again probably, but at the moment I haven't really been doing that. It's like I said, this year has been really challenging with work, so.
Yeah. Well, we're all looking forward to 2021. Thanks so much for coming on. You're welcome back anytime if you ever have some new adventures that you'd like to share.
Well, Tyler, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, sir.